You know what else there is? The surgeries.
Oh my gosh.
Telesurgeries.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that playing a couple rounds of Surgeon Simulator will make you ready to perform surgery, but there are probably more legitimate surgery simulator applications that get utilized in a game-type sense to practice, aside from practicing on a cadaver,
Right.
actually practicing in a digital world. So, you don't kill somebody while you're learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome back to Digitally Distracted. I am Game Dave.
I'm Gerald.
And today we're going to be talking about video game skills. But I'm not talking about getting headshots in Call of Duty. No. I'm talking about video game skills being interpreted and converted into real-world life skills. Maybe they do. Maybe video games are bad for your real-world life skills. We might get into that later on in today's discussion. But I was talking with a friend of the show, a lot of friends of the show.
A lot of friends.
Noptop, and he was we were talking about the skills involved in video games. We were talking about somebody he knew that thought video games were a waste of time and that they were for lazy people. And there's
Common
really
misconception.
Common misconception by idiots. That, they're just for lazy people and they just waste time. And there's no benefit to playing games. They are strictly a time sink.
Which, I have something to say about that.
Go ahead.
Rest is underrated, right? So rest is important. The body needs rest.
Okay.
It serves a purpose.
Right.
So video games, even if that's all they were, just a mindless way to just either unwind or shut your brain off or relax or whatever, even if that's all they were, they would still have value.
I agree. Because de-stressors keep you from dying.
Absolutely.
Did you know that? Stress kills you a lot faster than most other things.
Now, I think what they usually think of is maybe overindulging in games. If you play it all day, 5 days a week, whatever. But that can be said for anything.
Yeah.
I
100% agree. Going out to eat.
Yeah.
Every single meal.
Yep.
A lot of people get stuck in that because the convenience factor,
right? Of
course. And there's so many options now. You don't really have to. And buying groceries is just a pain in the butt.
Right.
Yeah. The aspect of moderation does come up a lot. It's like, oh, anything's fine in moderation. I don't know. I think you can play games a little bit more than other things. I don't know.
I don't think it has as many drawbacks as, for example, if you ate out more frequently than you probably should.
Yeah, I'm going to get fatter.
Right.
Unless I'm making very specific choices.
Right, exactly. And you're probably your budget's probably going to take a little bit of a hit because it's expensive to eat out.
Yes.
Versus if you play video games a little bit more than you should, okay, then you're probably not spending your time doing other things that you could.
Maybe. You're not spending as much money because you're probably just playing your games you already have more.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really see... It doesn't have as many negative impacts.
Yeah, until it gets to that level of excess.
Yes.
To where it is infringing on your daily responsibilities or your interactions with humans. Where if you're to the point where you are saying... And man, we just jumped into it because this is actually part of what I wanted to get into, which was the topic of, we'll just start with that because we're already into it, interactions with others, how video games can positively or negatively affect that. So right now we're talking about the negative. If you are playing video games in excess to where, say you are an adult, like if you're a kid, whatever.
Right.
Go ahead. Go crazy.
Kids out there,
You're a friggin' kid.
you're a kid.
You're a
Do
friggin'
it.
kid.
Don't
Just
beat
do-
yourself up. Don't
be-
let anybody
no.
tell you.
No, that's the
You
job
know?
of the bully to beat you. To
Exactly.
Beat you up. Don't beat yourself up.
No.
Let the bully do
You
it.
do you. This is your time.
Yes. Now, when you're an adult and you have adult responsibilities,
Mm-hmm.
when the excess of video game playing does hinder those responsibilities from being taken care of, that is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But you can still play a lot of video games
Mhm.
and still get stuff done.
Oh yeah,
For sure. 'Cause
absolutely.
I always bring this up when it comes to the older generation, golfing being the pastime
Mhm.
of the retired folk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people like to golf in their spare time. And golfing takes a heck of a lot of time
Mm-hmm.
because even if you've got the souped up golf cart,
Mm-hmm.
18 holes of golf, I mean, that's like a day, right? That's like an all day affair.
Well,
it can be.
You know what I realized?
Go
what-
ahead.
What golfing is,
What is golfing?
and I didn't realize this until
Let's define golfing with Gerald.
golfing isn't always about golf.
Oh, about the hangout,
Yeah,
about the conversation,
golfing is an excuse to get away for the
about
day.
shooting the stuff.
Yep. Drink some beers.
Excuse to get away.
Yep.
Guess what? Video games can be the same thing.
Exactly.
And I can golf in video games all day, and I don't have to go outside and get sunburned. Or wear the floppy pants
Mm-hmm.
that they prefer when you golf. But, you know, you can spend a lot of time golfing. I mean, I've never done an 18-hole golf course. I've only gone to the driving range once. And by go to the driving range, I mean in college, game day of college life story, my fellow hallmates and I, they're like, hey, we're going to wait till midnight and we're going to drive over to the driving range. And we're just going to, we had gone to the thrift store and we grabbed like some driver golf clubs because there's always golf clubs at the
Right.
thrift store. And we each got one. And then at midnight, it was after midnight, we drove to this hot, hoity-toity expensive golf club driving range, which, you know, it's not like the driving range doesn't get locked
Right.
up.
Right. Just like an open field or whatever.
Yeah, sort of an open field, and then it connects into the golf course. So we drove up, we parked, and we got our clubs out. Couldn't see anything. We had like flashlights out because we didn't have smartphones.
Right.
You know, I went to college before smartphones,
Old man.
at least the early age of smartphones. So we're like, got our flashlights out, and I didn't, but the other buddies, they went down and jumped the fences and with buckets and would throw golf balls into the buckets from the driving range,
Uh-huh.
and then would come back up and we'd put the buckets down and we just drove golf balls for like a half an hour, and then we'd run out, we'd go down, fill the buckets up.
Right.
again.
Right.
Free driving range time.
Look at that.
Is that legal? That's illegal. That was probably illegal.
That's probably illegal.
Probably illegal. But hey, I didn't jump the fence. I just drove the balls back where they belonged over the
So you were
fence.
helping. You were helping, trying to make things
helping
right,
put things back from their
Mhm.
thievery.
maintaining the balance.
So if anything, I was the Jesus character.
Yeah,
in that
you
event.
would have been the Jesus character.
I was the Superman to that to their Joker and their madness. That's the only golfing experience I've ever had, and there were many a missed ball swinging wildly. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know the technique or form.
Mhm.
Okay, NES Open Tournament Golf did not train me well enough for that,
See?
sadly. But excess. If the only interactions you're having with other people are through, you know, multiplayer online games, and it can be very tumultuous,
Mhm.
to use a big word to make me feel smart, or negative a lot of times where you're playing against other people and you're yelling at other people.
Mhm.
You know, I think emotionally that could maybe affect you.
Yeah, that could wear you down.
If that's all you're doing, just like with anything, having a varied life,
Yeah.
where you do, you know, experience a lot of things, find the things that you like the most,
Mhm.
you know, and obviously focus on those things, but don't make them all of what your life is about.
Right.
Because I love video games, but my entire life is not dedicated to video games.
That's true. That's a true statement.
When you start dedicating your life to one thing,
Mhm.
then your life sort of disappears and it becomes lost in that thing instead of being a part of you.
Right.
It becomes all of you, and you get lost in it, and who you are kind of can disappear
Mhm.
because then you're being defined by, oh, that's the guy that plays Super Mario Brothers. That's all he is now,
Mhm.
or she. Like that's not what you want to be.
Right.
So it can be negative. There are some negatives to gaming, of course, but I'm talking about skills that you might get. So social skills can occur because of the gaming hobby. Obviously, I have interacted with a lot of people I never would have met or interacted with if it wasn't for the YouTube channel
Right.
and the online video stuff that I do with video games and the Game Dave channel. So there is that. There is that benefit. And sometimes there are people in MMOs. I mean, how many stories are there of massively multiplayer online games where people have basically developed true friendships and relationships with people that they were in guilds with in MMOs.
I love those stories.
It's awesome.
I love those
You know?
stories.
And,
Yep.
you know, the outside mainstream worldview people might say, oh, they got married in a video game, or like they may see those interactions as weird. I remember the first time a friend I met on the internet came and visited me. Some of my relatives, my aunt was like, are you sure about that? I don't know about that. That seems weird. That seems wrong. I'm like, it's just people, you know? I'm not an idiot.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it is one of my closest friends to this day.
Yeah.
So
There's that now. I think that stigma's slowly being worn down with the MMO community and
and those online interactions.
exactly
For sure.
They still exist.
Yes.
But yeah, and as the generation that accepts those relationships, so the actual players gets older, they will continue to be accepted and you know, more and more accepting.
Yeah.
You know,
If you grew up with it as a norm,
exactly,
then you'll pass it on as a norm.
like how playing video games as an adult is very normal now.
Oh, yeah. And most games, I feel like the majority of video games now are geared towards adults.
It's true.
Not just because adults grew up with games, the adults now grew up with games, but the fact that there's also the aspect of when you make a piece of entertainment and you gear it towards kids, kids think it's lame. Entertainment that's geared towards adults, kids still find cool.
Interesting.
So, like when you go back to some of the old 80s TV shows that do stand up still, they weren't dumbed down. They weren't made for kids.
Interesting.
So they lived on in a different way. I was watching some videos about the old, some of the old animated series, like Batman the Animated Series, which is an amazing
so
show.
Good.
Like that is not a kiddie show.
So
Anybody can get something out of it.
good.
The X-Men animated series, the old original X-Men animated series, had this constant through line. It talked about some very intense topics. It wasn't goofy and kiddie. And I think kids latch on to things that are geared towards adults because they don't want to be talked down to.
Right.
Kids don't want to be like have things dumbed down. They want to be presented real things and real experiences.
Right.
Because then they can feel like their thoughts and opinions can matter in an adult world.
Right.
So I think that's pretty cool. Now, I'm not saying you should kill childlike wonder and fun and the goofiness that can come along with, you know, there's TV shows I loved as a kid that if I were to watch them now, I'd be like, oh, wow, that's pretty bad. That is pretty bad. But, you know, it gets you through some of the tough times as a kid. But with the skills, you know, the waste of time aspect of video games, oh, it's a waste of time. You're not going to get anything out of it. My first one, the thing that I think I gained the most from playing video games, and specifically role-playing games, is my English and reading ability.
Interesting.
Like, I think I am a significantly better reader and speaker and writer because of video games, and specifically RPGs, despite the sometimes funky translations out there. I think there's so much text-heavy interaction in those games. The pre-voice acting era, you know, the RPGs I grew up with didn't have voice acting until much later. I mean, Final Fantasy X was the first Final Fantasy game with like full voice acting that I experienced.
Right.
You know, I had to read these games, and if you were to condense the script to a 100-hour RPG into a book, like I was probably reading way more than I would have by checking a book out at the library.
Right.
And it was something I was intrigued in. So reading and writing and speech, I think, was more important to me because of role-playing games. And, I mean, I was an A student when it came to English and language arts. Like, that was my bread and butter. And I think that also lent well to my public speaking ability because, in a way, not only am I just reading, it's also performing in a way. Like, the way that you're reading an RPG script or dialogue, interactions of these characters, you like I talk about naming my main character. I always like to name the main character. I take on that role.
Yeah.
So in a way, I'm performing and interacting with these characters as I read the script
Right.
of what's being said to me, or vice versa. And I really do think I would not be as well versed in English in the language, or would it not have done as well in college and high school if it wasn't for RPGs when it comes to reading and writing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was into books maybe until middle school. I think by like 6th grade, I didn't go to the library. I didn't like to read.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that I didn't like to read because I was bad at reading. It just didn't interest me.
Right.
But video games, I was reading probably way more than I ever would have if I had maintained that interest in reading. But kids, keep reading. If you're watching, don't stop reading because Game Dave said he didn't read.
Right.
I just wasn't into books
Sure.
the same way.
Sure. I
Which
mean, at the end of the day, you were still reading.
I was,
You know?
just in a different format.
Exactly.
And I think it was fine because I was still getting a lot of fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Still getting a lot of fiction through that. And then, strategy guides.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was still getting books. I mean, I talked about that story of when I met my buddy Steven.
Mhm.
I met him in English class
reading
strategy guides. I had a
Yep.
Final Fantasy 7 strategy guide. He had the Final Fantasy 8 strategy guide. And we made a connection there. And, I would read guides all the time. So in a way, I was getting nonfiction, literary text as well,
Mm-hmm.
despite only, doing the majority of my reading in video games.
Right.
So that's probably my biggest, I think, benefit. And I think kids can benefit heavily from playing role-playing games that are text-heavy. Nowadays, maybe not as much, unless you got the subtitles turned on,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of modern open-world RPGs have complete voice acting in them.
Mm-hmm.
I still like games that don't have voice acting. I like the idea of letting your imagination determine sort of what those characters might sound like. Like when I played the old Final Fantasy games, like trying to imagine what Cloud would have sounded like before Cloud got a voice actor in the later interpretations of FF7.
Mm-hmm.
And things like Kingdom Hearts that lended voices to characters that otherwise didn't. Like Vivi, the Black Mage. Like, what would Vivi sound like?
Mm-hmm.
In your imagination, you sort of build it, even if it's subconsciously, you tie this sort of what you think they would sound like in your head.
Right.
So I think you're also, like, your mind works in such a different way when you're playing a video game than when you watch a movie or listen to music.
Right.
So what skills do you think you've gained, maybe, or people can gain by just playing video games? Let's give them some more reasons to keep playing video games, because that's mine. Reading, I think, is major, huge, especially when it comes to like the PS1 era RPGs, just the text-heavy RPGs and the reading, even text adventures,
Mm-hmm.
point-and-click adventures, a lot of reading
Mm-hmm.
that otherwise a kid might not, sort of tricking kids into reading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think there's also, with technology, the way that it's evolving and growing, we're getting a lot of unmanned technology.
Yes, yeah, the drones and
The
everything.
drones and things where
yeah.
you use, controllers to control these, incredibly sophisticated, devices.
Yeah, and not even just not just war-based
No,
military stuff.
no.
There's tons of
There's absolutely. But-
non-combative technologies that
Mhm.
involve those sort of remote controlled
Exactly.
users.
Exactly. Yeah. And that, you figure that these are the people operating these devices have been training for years
Unknowingly.
unknowingly.
Yeah.
Those fine motor skills. It's the camera work. It's just, and that's just going to get more and more common as the technology proliferates and gets out there.
hmm
And, I think there's going to be more and more opportunities because there's the talent pool is out there,
Yeah. hmm
It's not something that's only a few very specific, people have. Like, a lot of people play video games. A lot of people are comfortable holding a controller, So yeah, I think that's a big one that I've recognized, and that's like a career, not just in the military, but in the civilian side of things as well, where those sort of like unmanned vehicles,
Yeah.
you can make that your career, like, you know, and that blows my mind that you could be making like a really good living doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, with filmmaking especially, the old days of filmmaking, when you got aerial shots, an aerial shot was oftentimes a freaking dude with a camera on his shoulder in a helicopter.
Yep.
You know, getting these insane shots. Now with the sort of the shrinking and microscopifying of every piece of technology,
Right.
you have these insane drones that can just go anywhere and just do these super stable movements with these super tiny cameras that can produce insane HD footage.
Yep.
And they're all manned by an RC transmitter.
Exactly.
And yeah, the controller thing, that's exactly what I thought of when you say, it makes me go back to the NES era where people were still trying to figure out how controllers should be held.
Right.
Because I remember people that would put NES controllers down and play them.
Yes.
Yeah, and play them like an arcade stick.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know. It's not like you would get an NES game and the manual. As far as I know, the NES manual did not show you how to hold the controller.
Right.
It was just, here's the controller, and it would have arrows. This is start, this is select, this is your action button, this is your action, this is the directional pad. It didn't say, all right, you hold your thumbs on the front and you hold it over the top like this or however. And there's people who hold NES controllers differently than I do still to this day. But it's funny to think that we're still even that early figuring out how controls work. And now controllers have become so advanced and so sophisticated. We have analog thumbsticks and shoulder buttons became a thing. And and having all these extra face buttons and touch pads on the PlayStation 4. Having or even going to the Wii U, having a touch screen on the controller or the Switch. You know, which then leads to smartphones and the way that those games and apps can be interacted with touch. Though I still feel like a haptic, an actual physical touch controller is the best way.
Right.
But yeah, really, you think a PS4 controller really converts well to a legit like RC transmitter controller, and that's something that you might not have the tactile feel. Not tactical. Never getting into the military, but that tactile feel that a touchscreen would have.
Right.
Is pretty interesting. Now, I've talked about before that I am a teacher, and I do teach computers to elementary school students, and that's something that I do get worried about, where tablets, because you would think you give a kid an NES controller nowadays, they'll be fine.
Right.
Not all of them. Yes, some kids have PS4s and Xboxes, so they may be used to an Xbox or PlayStation controller, but the majority of gaming for the younger generation is done on tablets. And their first experiences with computers, from what I've seen as I've been doing this year after year after year, more and more kids' only experience with a computer is a tablet. So a lot of times they'll see a tablet as, oh, that's what a computer is.
Interesting.
So when they come to me, we use desktops and a mouse and a keyboard.
And it's a foreign concept to them?
The mouse is a very foreign concept.
Wow.
A lot of times, which is even doubly annoying when I'm teaching, because I use a smartboard, which is an interactive, it's basically a giant touchpad mouse that I touch on. So if I'm showing them how to use a digital paint program, and I say, well, what you need to do is come over and go ahead and click on the eraser. But I touch it on my smartboard because I'm not going to go up there with a mouse.
Right.
When I do that, there are students in the early grades who will tap they'll go up and try to touch their monitor because touchscreen interactivity is so ingrained in their minds.
It's really intuitive.
And it takes a long time to get certain students used to using a mouse with a right and left click and a scroll wheel.
Yeah.
So many kids will come in and they will push on the scroll wheel as if that's the click. That's the button, because it's
it's raised.
It's
and
raised, and it's like, oh no, that is a button. That's what a button looks like.
The mouse, like you don't really. I can see anymore the buttons.
No, it's not cut out the same
Yeah.
way, especially because every mouse nowadays pretty much has a scroll wheel on it. Whereas when we were growing up, a computer mouse was literally, aside from Mac, which was nothing, that was the smoothest. But, you know, we were PC people, as far as I know.
Yeah.
It would be a mouse that would have the two cut out left and right clicks. So you could see that they were buttons in pressing in, and they were cut out to the back.
Yep.
Whereas a more current mouse, it's smooth all the way forward.
Yep.
Aside from that, and I have to explain, no, that you have to press this flat piece. I know it looks just like it's smooth, so I have to turn on its side and show that it pushes in.
Right.
Because it just looks like a flat piece of plastic.
Yep.
No, that's a button. That's a button. It's
Right.
so frustrating.
Oh, I believe it.
Stop clicking the scroll wheel, kids. So yeah, gaming can help with that.
Right.
Because you get that tactile interaction with a controller.
Sure.
That's great. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fine motor skills, of course, twitch reflexes.
Yeah.
And another big one, this one I noticed the most when I was doing pop plays with Harold, my grandfather, is
Game Herald.
Game Harold. His reaction time, which of course you lose reaction time as you get older.
Sure.
But I would wonder if he was a gamer for some reason. If he was a gamer.
If it would have been a little bit more resilient.
Yeah, if he would have held on to that reaction time.
That'll be interesting to see in
when we
30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah, when we turn 80, 85, will we have maintained more reaction time than elderly people now who didn't grow up with
it
games?
will still have, degenerated, but
of course,
but will it
arthritis and so on?
Yeah,
and so forth.
lingered, and hung on a little bit. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, to see those twitch reflexes and the reaction time, to see how that is maintained. If there's benefits to, if my grandfather, when he turned 30, had played an hour of twitch reflex and reaction time based video games, or even quick time event video games once a day for an hour up until he turned 85.
Right.
Would he have more reaction time? Would he have better? Would he have less arthritis in his hands because of the way they were used? I don't know what causes arthritis. It's genetic. I know that's part of it, but would working your fingers make it worse or better?
I wonder.
Would you be more arthritic because you played so many video games? Because obviously there is a limit.
Sure.
Just like anything, it's a muscle. You work it, it gets stronger.
I was just thinking too, there's other applications, like in the sciences and exploration, whether it's Mars or whether it's
yeah, there you go, right there, controlling the old Mars rover.
Exactly.
Yeah, remotely.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, I could definitely see space, because a lot of things you do in being the field of an astronaut, it feels a lot like a real world video game.
Right.
Like some of that stuff is so insane.
Right.
It's almost like it is like a real world amusement park. Some of the things that they do.
Right.
When they do like the G-force testing and things like that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You know what else there is? The surgeries.
Oh my gosh.
Telesurgeries.
Yeah. Now I'm not saying that playing a couple rounds of Surgeon Simulator will make you ready to perform surgery, but there are probably more legitimate surgery simulator applications that get utilized in a game type sense to practice, aside from practicing on a cadaver, actually practicing in a digital world. So, you don't kill somebody while you're learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's me, especially, I went to a tech school, local tech school. So my vocation, of course, was film production, TV and radio. And there was an ROTC military sort of focused one with a heavy focus on Air Force, because this is Delaware.
Yeah, it was sort of like Air Force sanctioned, or like that was their
sort of focus, in a way. There's a lot of connections with the Air Force Base, which is in Delaware here. And they had I remember because the way it would work as a freshman, you didn't get assigned a shop. You didn't get your tech vocation assigned as a freshman.
That's probably a good idea.
So you would do career pathways where you would go through 2-week rotations. So for the entire semester, every 2 weeks you would try each shop. So you do 2 weeks in cosmetology. You would do 2 weeks in medical assisting, 2 weeks in dental, 2 weeks in TV radio, 2 weeks in electronics, 2 weeks in masonry, auto body, auto tech. And you would also do 2 week visual communications. And it was more like they would just give you a preliminary sort of overview of what the shop is like. You might do one project to kind of see if it's something you're interested in, to help you, instead of just thinking, oh, I want to do auto body because I like working on cars.
Right.
experience it for 2 weeks and see like, oh, I actually hate this.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
I hate taking dents out of cars all day. And then it helps you better see. I actually found out surprisingly, I really liked working on hair and cosmetology. I want to do that, whatever. You know, that's fine. And I remember in ROTC, the most excited I was when we got to look at the flight simulator. I was like, this is a freaking video. This is Afterburner.
Right.
POV Afterburner. So you'd get in the flight simulator machine and you would do the flight, and it was crazy. So there you go, life skills right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to bring up Matthew Broderick.
Right.
War games.
Right.
That was him, right?
Yeah, that was him.
Yeah. Video games in real life. I mean, that's sort of the way things could go with technology. Anyway. Crazy. But we're going to continue this after a game break.
Already?
Yes.
Wow.
All right, yes. The bone hunting knife is back, but for this game break, it is not fan mail this time. This is not fan mail. Unfortunately, the fan mail P.O. box was empty the last time I checked it. But if you want to send something into the show for us to unbox live, you can do that. You can send it to Game Dave, or you can send it to Gerald, or Digitally Distracted at the address P.O. Box 1695, Dover, Delaware 19903. And we will open it on the show. Every piece of mail that's been sent since we started the show has been opened on the show. So if you want to, send something in, whatever, feel free, snail mail it. But I wanted to open this on camera. This is something I ordered. This is Game Dave's own mail. This is personal mail. This is straight from Japan. Something I ordered about a month ago. It finally showed up, because that's how it works when you order on Japan and don't pay for the expedited shipping.
Right.
This is, I might not need the knife.
Look at that.
This is a game I've wanted for a very long time. And recently, eBay's been doing, this is from eBay, eBay's been doing their weird, 20% off anything on eBay for 6 hours. And a lot of times I have things on my watch list that I've been waiting for. I was like, I don't want to quite pay that price for it. I had some eBay bucks. The 20% coupon showed up. I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. This is a game I've wanted for years and years and years.
Wow.
It's means a lot to me, this game. I've only played it a little bit in emulator. But it is, you'll see why in a minute, why this is such an important game to me and why it's not already in my collection. It was a Japanese exclusive for the Japanese Super Nintendo, the Super Famicom, possibly a game I'll look at on Super Famicom Corner if and when that happens. I had to have a box copy. So when it comes to a game that means this much, I have to have a box copy. Here's the problem, Gerald. 1, somewhat rare. 2, very expensive game. Very expensive game. So when that discount happened, I was all in. I've asked my Japanese buddies out there to keep an eye out for this game, and those who live in Japan that know me, they've had very little luck finding it, at least at a decent price, and I just had to jump on it. So here we are.
Oh, look at that.
So here's one of the cool things about ordering things from Japan. They have the coolest shipping boxes.
That is so cool.
Because you would think it would just be sitting in there.
That's what I was expecting.
Nope. So it looks like, and a lot of times when I order things from a Japanese eBay seller, there's only about 5 or 6 eBay sellers from Japan that I use because they're trusted, and I'm just used to using them. I've interacted with them. I've emailed them before, like, hey, if I get all these together, can we do some discount situation? And usually they oblige. One of the cool things about ordering things from Japanese eBay sellers, they always put some weird thing in there. Sometimes I'll get a Dragon Ball Z trading card.
Yeah.
Or I've gotten Japanese green tea bags sent to me before, or little cool notes. Or one time I've been sent a Japanese rail passes just so I can see what they look like. Things like that.
Yeah, no, that's been my experience too, where they put something a little extra in there.
Yeah.
And just makes it nice.
Yeah. They're just trying to, it's just all a scam. They just want us to order again.
But listen, it works.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because I was like, oh, favorite seller. That was kind of cute. That's cute. And I also noticed that the Japanese really take care of their games better than we do.
Well,
I feel like they're always in better condition. Like they'll mark something as acceptable condition, and it gets here. I'm like, this would be like new here.
Right.
But yeah. It looks like there's something extra in here, aside from just the very unique packaging. Is this box specifically made for a Super Famicom game? It looks like it. So it appears that they've included something to help maintain the quality of the game. I'm sure you can see it right there, Gerald. But we'll get to that. What is this? How is this hermetically sealed? Come on now. The plastic is harder than the box to get into. There we go. Didn't need the bone hunting knife for this plastic. Here we go. We're in. So first we have a little note here. Oh, this is good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Look
Like
at
this?
that.
Before listing the game software, I have wiped all the terminals of the cartridge and checked their motion. What? oh, translations.
Right?
However, the terminals got dirty immediately because it is a second-hand item. The cotton swab is attached for cleaning the terminal as a special offer. Oh, God bless you for the special offer of a Q-tip. Hopefully that's name brand.
Right?
If the game does not start well, please try to clean the terminals with this swab. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Not a tough clean. That is funny. I have wiped all the terminals of the cartridge and checked their motion. This is probably what they put in every game they sell.
But maybe, but
That is very specific.
yeah.
The terminals got dirty immediately because it is a secondhand item. But after you cleaned it, they immediately got dirty. They tried. Let's put that there. That's fun. So we got a nice little box here. Let's open this.
That might need the knife. The old bone knife.
It's never that far away. It's always a grab away. Okay. Any guesses, Gerald,
I
on what
have
might be inside?
No idea.
Super Nintendo, something that would mean a lot to me, that I would have to have. No, it's not Final Fantasy related.
But you haven't played a lot of it?
No,
Only on an
no, 'cause I
emulator?
wanted to play it legit. I've only played a taste of it on an emulator because I wanted to wait. You ready?
I'm ready. Oh!
So this is an exclusive Japanese Super Famicom release. Super Back to the Future 2.
Wow.
Yeah, very unique game. Probably the best Back to the Future game ever made,
Wow.
and we never got it. There is no Super Back to the Future 1 or 3 either.
So is that like a side scroller? What has that?
Yeah, so this is a side-scrolling, platforming action game, and you can take a look at that, Gerald. You're on a hoverboard the entire time for the the majority of the game as Marty McFly. Picks up at the beginning of Back to the Future 2. You fight bosses. You fight Griff, the future Biff
I see that.
grandson, and it's just a really cool action platformer. Yeah, where you're on the it has this cool chibi style.
That is cool.
Yeah, and a box copy. Looks like pretty good condition.
It does.
I didn't expect it to be amazing, but Yep, smells like Japan. Actually, it has no smell at all. Let's see. I'm curious how dirty.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, let's
contacts
let's crack that open.
It should have the manual as well,
Oh,
which is
man,
excellent.
That's
Is there anything else in there?
That's a beautiful sight
That
there.
is a beauty. That is a beauty. Yep. Super Back to the Future 2. Super cool. I love the art style.
That is heavy.
Yeah, this is a game. Great Scott. I've had this on my wish list for a while. It's just one that I was like, I can't justify. Usually you'll see it about $140 to $150 box, about $150 box for like okay condition. This is probably the best condition I've seen of it boxed at the price I got. I did not pay $150. I would not have paid $150. Did I pay 3 digits for it? Maybe. The cartridge is not even yellowed. A lot of times these Super Famicom games will be yellow. You can see some back there. Oh, those are pretty clean, though. I'm very picky about when I'll buy. Oh, the label is pristine. All we got is a little bit of Sharpie. Somebody wrote probably their name in Japanese. That'll come right off.
Yeah.
That'll come right off with a little alcohol. Little Crystal Head vodka. I'll take that right off. I would love to do some sort of retrospective, maybe about my favorite games or my favorite movies as games.
Yes.
Where I look at games based on my favorite movies, which would be Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, and Beetlejuice, all of which have had a game in some aspect, and maybe talk about some of those.
Right.
That'd be kind of fun to do.
Yeah.
So there's one more little piece here from the seller. Thank you very much for your purchase this time. I'm very happy to send you the item from faraway Japan. I'm going to sell more wonderful Japanese products. It would appreciate it if you could take a look at them. Please contact me if you have any problems or question with the item you received. Thank you very much. Kazuki Kuno. Got a nice cool little drawing of Gojira, Godzilla, and then I assume that's him in Japan right there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, funny.
That is cool.
I like it when it's personalized.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, seller. You're going to be going on my saved sellers list. This is not somebody I normally purchase from, but you've made the list. You've made
That is cool.
the Game Dave import approved
Look,
seller list.
I'm a sucker for good customer service, and just little things like that.
A service sucker, you might say.
Service sucker.
He's a service sucker. A sucker for service. Let's get super back to our topic.
Okay.
To finish out, we only got a little bit of time left. We were talking about the skills. We sort of left off talking about the twitch reflexes
Yes.
and handling a controller well, reaction time. We're basically going to do a test where we're going to play an hour of twitch reflex-based games every day until we turn 85 and
Right.
compare it to Harold
Yeah.
from Pop Plays.
Yeah.
See how
I
he
think
does.
I think it's smart. It's for science.
It's for science. It's for science. Now, we have to look at both sides of the coin. We can't be biased.
Okay.
So I think reading skills, major. Twitch reflexes and reaction times, I think, benefit heavily from being a gamer that's consistent. Because there's a lot of things, even in a game like Mario Kart, there's a lot of quick reactions that you have to do.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of train your game, train your brain.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not practicing those skills, even if it isn't a video game, I mean, it's something that could translate into the real world. And before we get to the negatives, even something like sports games. Maybe you're a kid that isn't into sports, but you like sports games. Maybe you don't know all the rules for baseball. You play a game on the Super Nintendo, a baseball game. You learn all those rules.
All the stats.
You learn the stat. Yeah, if you're playing the most recent game, you're learning about these players without watching the games. Knowledge base. Like, you might be able to build your knowledge base in game because of a game in something that lives outside of it.
Right.
You might be like, oh, now if I play baseball with my friends at school, I'll know what's going on because I played a baseball video game at home.
Right.
Another aspect of learning things, games that take place in a historical time might give you references to things. I know, say what you will about Assassin's Creed. Maybe you'd learn a little bit about the era. God of War, you learned all about legitimate mythology, right? Is that how that works? God of War teaches true mythology. You'll learn the names of things.
Right. You'll learn the names. That's
You'll
fair.
learn the names.
That's fair.
But there are games based on mythological stories and things like that might, help you learn about some historical stuff that you might not otherwise have learned about, which I think is kind of cool. Memory. I think your memory, there's a lot of games that might help strengthen your memory
Sure.
in gaming. Puzzle games, of course, I think are very good for the memory. They say that people who are struggling with dementia and Alzheimer's, that playing brain games can help a lot.
Interesting.
So I feel like video games could be part of that.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, train your brain, I know there used to be a lot of advertisements for these websites that help with your focus and your memory.
Yes.
Remember those
Yep.
advertisements were like, it's like you're helping your brain,
Yep.
but they're just games.
Right.
It's like, yeah, that's been around before. They're called video games, dummy. They've been around forever.
Right.
Okay, just
Yep.
play some video games that involve critical thinking, and you'll probably be fine. That's another thing with RPGs, like figuring out weird puzzles or Zelda games on solving the puzzles of dungeons. Like, it really can work your brain.
Yeah.
And you can't say that's not going to build things in your brain that are
Right.
going to last a lifetime to help you, just with your memory in general.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, yes, video games help develop skills that can be used in your everyday life and possibly extend your life. People who play
that.
video games might live longer. This is based on no scientific evidence of my own, just based on my own conjecture with Gerald here, and I think it's pretty definitive.
I would agree with that.
You will live longer if you play video games, period.
Fact.
Fact. Hashtag fact. Hashtag touch your roots. Gaming negatives, though. We have to talk to the other side of the coin, like I mentioned. And what do you think might be some of the negatives of video games? Are there things that might be damaged or hurt by playing games? Maybe ruin some of your skills?
I think it's a possibility, and I don't know what the science has said about this. I think there's some justification for it, but I think it could potentially damage your eyesight.
We talked about that a little bit.
Was that disproven?
It said that there seemed to be no significant change.
I don't know if I believe that. In terms of...
That's from our first episode.
Yeah. You know what they say about you're supposed to look away for so many minutes, an hour, like something that's like further away, like 20 feet away.
Like
or
I can
whatever.
understand maybe eye strain,
That's.
but I don't think that your vision gets worse because you look at screens.
I don't think it's so much the screen as it is so much
The
as
focus?
the focus.
So the fact that you're focusing so close for so long?
Yes.
Maybe. I don't think so, but I don't know. You decide, viewers, in the comments. Who's right? Do screens damage your eyes?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
That's not what I'm saying.
Say it again so we can get the correct response.
Right. I'm saying staying focused, staring at a certain depth.
Could that be true for anything outside of screens?
Yes. Yeah. But my point is, and that's true.
Okay.
So like if you're reading for 12 hours a day, and the reason I say that much is because if you are doing your schoolwork or your work for 8 hours a day,
yeah, you will have headaches and eye strain.
right? And then you play video games when you get home for another 4 hours, for example.
So it's consistent eye strain.
Right.
It's probably easier to have a consistent eye strain due to a screen.
Right. So between your mobile device, video games, and your work/schoolwork,
yeah.
So you're looking at for 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever. Does that, focusing on that same distance for that long, does that affect the muscles around your eyes that focus your eyes?
Okay.
Does it affect that?
Maybe. That I could go with.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm
Probably
thinking of.
in agreement. Well, then that goes right into what I would say could be a negative. We talked about how, reaction time and memory, and a lot of those things are internal. They're not direct like muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the twitch reflexes, this got me thinking, carpal tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Big deal with especially PC gaming.
Mm.
If you're PC gaming all the time, because the carpal tunnel is usually caused by consistent, long-term, repetitive movements, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doing the same movement over and over and over again, which in working out is fine because you're doing larger muscles, but those small muscle groups doing the same like movements over and over and over again can cause the carpal tunnel, right?
Mm-hmm.
In your nerves or whatever. So I wonder, can that sort of strain be a negative? Because I've certainly played games to the point where my hands have been sore.
Mm-hmm.
My wrists have been sore.
Mm-hmm.
I've had wrist issues in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to think it's not gaming related. It's probably more related to hours and hours of editing videos with a mouse.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? Like,
I think it's possible. I mean, did you ever have the Wii remote tennis elbow or whatever they call that?
Weenitis?
Yeah, Weenitis.
Weenitis, yes, but that's again just repetitive movement, right? I probably would have had the same. I mean, it's tennis elbow is an actual thing from real tennis,
right.
So if anything, that just shows how well Wii Sports recreated tennis. Not only does it feel like you're playing tennis, it also feels like you played tennis after. The negatives are also included. Yeah, I would get sore from playing the Wii, for sure. Did you? You probably didn't play enough.
I didn't play enough. No.
Wii was not your console.
No.
Yeah, I didn't buy a Wii until much later because, one, I was in college when it came out, and I went to the midnight release of the Wii with my buddy, and he got one. We brought it back, and we immediately put it in, hooked it up, and played Wii Sports Tennis all night. All night. I think we hooked it up in his girlfriend's dorm, and we were like, this is amazing. And it was like, oh, we got to get out of here because we didn't have co-ed dorms, so we had to get to the other hall before the time changed or whatever.
Yep.
Because you weren't allowed up there because, you might be kissing on things. So played some Wii Sports Tennis, and I remember being fairly sore, but not much because we didn't get to play it that often because it wasn't mine. It was a hallmate's. And then my parents had one. When I would come back from college, my mom got a Wii, and she would play it. She would play Dr. Mario RX, which was sort of an updated online version for the Wii, which was, she loved Dr. Mario anyway. Sure. But I played a lot of Wii Sports on hers. And then when I eventually did get my own, I got the red. I got the 25th anniversary red one, Mario red one, which was, help the American Heart Association.
Right.
So
it's
I was
important.
all about it. Yeah. Because white and black consoles, everything's either a white console or a black console. Mostly black colored systems. I was like, I just want something different. Like, I like the jungle green N64. I like having the red Wii. Do some different, little pop of color.
Yeah.
And Super Nintendo had some purple in there.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't like boring consoles. The PS4 Pro, I managed to get a glacier white one because at least the white kind of stands out a little bit. But pretty much everything's just black boxes that sit on your shelf.
It's true.
Give me a little color.
Yeah.
Little pop.
Little pop.
Little pop. So with that, I got pretty sore from the Wii. I don't think I did any damage that I know of, but I don't know how much. What do you know a lot about tennis elbow? Because I don't.
I mean, I think it's just repetitive motion, you know?
So it's like carpal tunnel of the elbow.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's what, like the tendon or something is.
Yeah. Yeah, because my wrist issue that I had was the bursal sac.
Oh, that's right.
Sac.
I remember this story. We just talked about this.
Yeah. It was, it's like it's in your joint and it's this sac and it got pinched and then it filled with fluid. And I had this like weird bump on my wrist and it had to be drained. Ew, gross. I was like, man, hardcore gamer.
Yep.
Right here. That's
Right
like,
in the
I'm
old
legit.
bursal sack.
I'm legit. Filled my bursal sack up with fluid. That's how you know I am a legit gamer. Yeah. I was playing a lot of games at that time, so it's possible. But I really think a lot of that came from editing. Luckily, has not happened again. So it's like a 50-50 chance that it can come back. Mine has not. It's been several years since I had that done. I get pain every once in a while in my wrist. Like if I do a lot of push-ups, like bending back, like the pressure from doing push-ups will give me pain in my wrist for like a day, which sucks because I'm like, I would do push-ups all the time if it didn't hurt my wrist.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it's me. Hear that?
I did.
Little crack in there.
Yeah, you might have just burst your bursal sack.
Burst my bursal. On that note, let's go to the Q&A. Let's go to the Q&A. So video games, they definitely influence your life skills. I think reading is probably the most beneficial, but it also depends on what types of games you're playing. Like playing Call of Duty 24/7, I don't know how much you're going to advance your real world life skills out of that, aside from maybe the twitch reflexes and reaction time.
I mean, it depends on, I don't know.
Memorizing maps, I don't know.
I mean,
I'm not trying to be a Call of Duty hater, but I am a Call of Duty hater.
They are talking about as technology develops, the hardware associated on guns and scopes and things, how you can sort of put them around corners so the soldier's actually behind cover, and I believe this is a thing. And it's sort of like a remote triggering, yeah.
So you stand behind a wall, you know the enemy's on the other side. So you have a gun that's like facing this way on like a on like a serving tray, and you like put it out and then control it.
Well, I think it's something with opticals with the with their helmets. It's somehow
so then they can see the view of it,
right?
And they're like,
I think that's a thing.
I mean, why wouldn't it be?
Right.
When it makes sense.
I'm
then
pretty
having
sure
to put yourself in line of fire to shoot.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Look at that, dropping some knowledge on us that may or may not be accurate. That's always good. So yeah, let us know what you think in the comments about video games developing life skills. I'm sure there's some things that we haven't thought about, or really training your also physical skills in the sense of those reflexes and reaction time and things like that. So Q&A, we got a couple things, and by a couple things, I mean one question. Because I felt like this was pretty relevant. It has to do with just sort of making gaming matter more in a way. This is from a blob from Twitter. At another blob. It's the full name though. Hashtag digitally distracted. Smart. That's why I was able to find this. Do you think Nintendo Labo would work well in schools, Dave? Buying the parts separately on Nintendo's shop to have enough duplicates would probably be really expensive, but they also uploaded PDF files on their website to print them out yourself in case you'd like to make it with cardboard that's lying around. So that is this, for those of you who don't know, Nintendo Labo was this sort of new creation that came out, very much geared towards kids, I think, where it's these cardboard sheets that you can fold and basically create things around the Joy-Con controllers to interact with games in different ways. And it's this basically development kit. So it's very much in that STEM sort of engineering mindset. And I could absolutely see this happening in schools. And you mentioned the whole cardboard refill thing and getting the PDFs directly from Nintendo. That's major because we go through so many boxes at the school. Like, there is cardboard like, you can get cardboard all day, every day at a school because books being shipped in, supplies coming in, yearbooks coming in. There's so many boxes that get just pile up.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could easily have a whole extracurricular activity, like an after-school class based around Nintendo Labo.
Have you had any direct experience or hands-on with Labo?
I have not. I've seen the kits. The one that intrigued me the most was the keyboard, the piano one, where you basically create a working keyboard
That's insane.
that connects with the Switch and allows you to basically create music and compose music through it. I'm not sure what sort of range of depth you have. Like, is it, okay, so there's these 5 games. These are the things you can create that will interact with the software. I don't know how expansive it can get. Like, how deep can you get into it? I know there's some things. There's a newer one where it's a vehicle Labo kit where you can create cardboard steering wheels that will interact and utilize the Joy-Con and motion controls. Basically, you're building, from what I understand about Labo, you're building basic machinery using cardboard and other small materials that is sort of formed around the Joy-Con controller system or the Switch itself to expand them into basically new ways to control the games or the activities within the games. So like you're building this cardboard thing around them to make a piano. That's kind of what I've seen. I'm sure you've seen them in stores or whatever, but there's another one where you basically make like a jetpack and you can like control it and like a robotic thing. Seems like it would go really hand in hand with VR. A lot of those experiences. I think there's another one where you're like in like a submarine, like scubaing or diving through, controlling some weird ship thing. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Obviously not well versed in Labo, but I could absolutely see that being something that kids would get into. Though I've heard some of those kits can take hours to cut out properly and put together. So there is that level of the kids are just going to want to start playing.
Well, I don't know. Like if you do have a club,
I think
Labo club, then I think you can do that sort of. You can play the long game.
Yeah, because if it was a smaller group, I'd say I don't think it would work in the classroom at all because you'd have minimum 20-some kids. And, for me, my classes are 50 minutes long. It'd be very difficult. It would probably take us 3 classes just to build it. We would only have the one. Not each kid would be making one. That would be insane. And then it'd be that thing of exhaustion where you spend all this time building it, and then it's like, oh, now we can finally play the game. It's like, I'm so tired from building this thing, I don't even want to play the games anymore. I don't even want to do the interactions. But an after-school club, yes, I think, to answer your question, Blob, I think that an after-school extracurricular activity, some sort of like a STEM club or an engineering club or a Nintendo Labo club after school would be the perfect setting for this. You have 10 kids maybe that are really, engineer-minded and maybe some that aren't, that get into it because of the club. So the first couple weeks of the club, we meet once a week and we do all the building. We're going to build this out of the cardboard. We get that done, and then the second half of the club is using those
it's the application.
Creations. Yeah, exactly. I think it would be great.
Yeah.
It'd be great in schools.
Yeah.
Any sort of hands-on activity, anytime you can take technology and make it more hands-on is major.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to just get a new program and put the kids on the computer and have them work through it. But to combine the real world, like physically using your hands and doing kinesthetic learning, and then combining that with the digital software, that's like the match that makes the most sense. Because then it's not just, they sat on the computer and played a game.
Right.
And interacted with digital objects, making it real, and then combining that with the software is huge. So absolutely, kids would love it. They would go crazy.
Yeah.
Certain kids would love it.
That's fair.
That.
That's fair.
Yeah, definitely an after-school activity for sure, or a club. Well, that's going to do it. That's it.
Wow.
We've gone through many a thing. Many a thing. Many a learning happening thanks to video games here today on Digitally Distracted. And if you want to interact with us a bit more like a Nintendo Labo kit would interact with the Switch, you can always leave a comment on this video version. You can also listen to the show. It is an audio podcast for those of you who keep asking me. It's been one for quite a while. Make sure you check it out. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Podbean, everything out there. It's pretty much available for you to listen to it. And you can also leave a comment on a lot of those platforms as well. Mostly Podbean. The Podbean comments is where I'll catch them the most because that's our main host. Thanks, Podbean. Appreciate you. Well, it's not like they did it for free. I got to pay for it. I got to pay for it. You can also Send me a topic or question through Twitter using the hashtag #DigitallyDistracted. It'll make it easy to see. That's how I found the Blob's question today, or a Blob's question. You can also join the Discord. You can support the show on Patreon. There's so many things you can do. You can send things to the P.O. Box, P.O. Box 1695, Dover, Delaware.
There's a lot of interaction with us.
19903. So much.
Look at that. And we're not even cardboard cutouts.
No. Real people, real humans on your flat screen that you're looking at right now. So, thanks for getting digitally distracted with us. I am Game Dave.
I'm Gerald.
We'll see you on the next one.